African Center for Capacity Building, AFCAP, organizes the following executive and advanced certificate programs like Executive Certificate in Project Management, Executive Certificate in Human Resource Management, Executive Certificate in Real Estate and Property Management, Executive Certificate in Data and Records Keeping, Executive Certificate in Monitoring and Evaluation, Executive Certificate in Logistics and Transport Management, Executive Certificate in CCTV Monitoring and Installation. AFCAP, where capacity building is our priority. For registration and enquiries, please call 0244 405047, 0242 135523. We have our branches in Accra, Tamale, Kumasi, and Wa. Saturdays and weekdays sessions are available. Admission is still in progress. Enroll now. Join the African professionals. AFCAP, where capacity building is our priority.
Studios in, I believe, 48 Monica Street, Facebook at Pan African Television, as well as YouTube at Pan African Television. Let me say a very good evening to our viewers on all the 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments, and contributions on our WhatsApp/text line. I'll make time and read all those out for you. You can as well follow us on all our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Pan African Television. Those of you watching us on Facebook can share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. My name is Justice Appiah, and tonight on Hot News, we are discussing Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's address on the economy to the nation, of course, this afternoon. Earlier today, we'll be bringing you some excerpts from that place. We'll delve into, or we'll delve deeper into some of the things said by the Vice President. We'll fact check some of the things said, those that are true, those that are false. We'll go back to somewhere around 2015, 2016, when they were in opposition and they wanted Ghanaians to vote for them, some of the things they said, as compared to some of the things the Vice President has told us today, and see if indeed the Vice President is really being fair to the good people of Ghana. Strangely, some time passed, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, on the sister station, talked about the fact that the new Patriotic Party government would not tax mobile money. E-levy has been approved, but conspicuously, unfortunately, he's never mentioned anything, with regards to e-levy. We'll bring you bites and all of that, some of the posts, some of the things he said, as compared to, what he has told Ghanaians today. But before then, let's listen to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia attributing the current economic quagmire we are in to COVID-19 and the Ukraine-Russian war. Let's listen to him. We'll be right back.
The government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo put in a lot of effort to turn things around from the situation that used to be when we came into office in 2017. We had only one mission: stop the decline and make things better. Together, as a country, we proceeded to fix the economy. We made great gains, and the records attest to this. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, which has impacted virtually all economies in the world, we stabilized the economy. We reduced inflation. We doubled economic growth in the first 3 years. We reduced the rate of depreciation of the cedi. The average depreciation from 2017 to 2020 was the lowest since 1992. We reduced the fiscal deficit We improved the external payments position, reduced interest rates in line with declining inflation expectations, and we cleaned up the mess in the financial sector that we inherited. We took the decisive action to avoid the collapse of the financial sector and to save the deposits of 4.6 million people. Thousands of businesses would have collapsed if we had not saved the banking sector. We implemented our flagship programs, such as Free SHS, Planting for Food and Jobs, One District, One Factory, NAPCO, IPEP, the Zongo Development Fund, restoration of teacher and nursing training allowances, and we embarked on the digitalization of the economy. The relatively strong performance of the economy, among other things, led to Ghana being the destination of choice for foreign direct investment.
That was Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia addressing the good people of Ghana right there. He didn't end there. He attributed prices of commodities on the market. I'm talking about fuel prices. He talked about, the fact that Ghana, or Russia and Ukraine, exports about 30% of wheat and all of that to the entire world. And for that matter, looking at the conflicts between these two countries, it has affected Ghana as well, and which is why, we have, commodities on the market being on the high and all of that. Let's listen to him attributing that one also to the, Ukraine-Russian war. I'll be back.
Countries and economies, I'm looking at inflation now. Countries and economies throughout the world are experiencing severe challenges following the COVID-19 pandemic and the more recent Russia-Ukraine war. The pandemic, which started early in 2020, resulted in the greatest economic depression since the 1930s, with most countries recording negative growth. Supply chain disruptions and the rising price of oil has resulted in the prices of fuel going up across the globe, with petrol prices doubling in most countries. In fact, in the world today, the highest petroleum prices can be found in countries like Hong Kong, the Netherlands, Zimbabwe, Germany, Israel, and the United Kingdom. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, the global average cost of shipping a container has increased from $1,446 in 2019. The global average cost for shipping a container has gone up from $1,446 in December 2019 to $9,789 as at February 2022. This is an increase of 576% to ship a container globally. This has dramatically increased the cost of shipping goods and therefore their prices on the market. Food prices have also not been left out. The Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO Global Food Index, Price Index, increased from 95.1.
Listened to the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. However, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has told Ghanaians that, well, we are saying that this government has borrowed a lot of money and all of that, but they have a lot to show that they have borrowed. They have used the monies they've borrowed, for several projects. They can pinpoint that these are the projects they've used it for. Let's listen to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana.
It should be noted, and it is important, that without the 50.1 billion for the exceptional items of the financial sector, the energy, and COVID, Ghana's debt to GDP would have been about 68%. instead of the current 80% that it is. Because of COVID-19, the GDP growth was virtually zero in 2020, and this is bound to increase the debt to GDP ratio, other things equal, with a lower base. Now to the question of what projects and programs government has to show for the higher debt. Some loan agreements underpinning the external debt stock are shown in the table that you are looking at. And we have, and I present in this document that I will make available, all the external debt loans that we have contracted. And you will see that the projects that we have undertaken over these last 5 years, from the loans that we have borrowed, you'll see that we borrowed money to build the University of Environment, Science and Sustainable Development in Somanya, right? We borrowed the money, contracted the loan. That is part of our debt stock. The Pokwasi interchange is part of our debt stock. The Tema Mpakadan Railway is part of our debt stock. The debt borrowing for Kumasi Airport Phase 2 is part of our debt stock. Tam Airport is part of our debt stock. Obechebi Lamte Interchange is there. We've borrowed money for polytechnics and technical and vocational training centers, construction of bridges, the secondary cities program, the modernization and equipment of Tetekwashi Memorial, Kibi, Aburi, Etibie hospitals, expansion of the University of Ghana Hospital Phase 2, 50 bridges, the portable water system in Yendi. We also have borrowed money for the expansion and rehabilitation, and expansion of the Bolgatanga Regional Hospital, modernization of Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, the construction and commissioning of a portable water infrastructure in Tamale, Pong generating and retrofit, Eastern Corridor, so many projects that we have, and I'll leave them for everybody to go through. So many projects across. So
was the digital vice president. That was the economist vice president. That was Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, vice president of the Republic of Ghana. But you recall that some time ago, the vice president appeared on the sister station where he was asked about whether or not this government would tax mobile money. He was very emphatic on that. He said that this government would not tax mobile money because to him, a lot of people who are on mobile money, who are using mobile money, are poor, and there wouldn't be any sense in taxing such persons. Lo and behold, this government has implemented e-levy, which includes mobile money. Surprisingly, e-levy has been conspicuously missing in the vice president's, of course, address to the nation today. But let me take you back. Let's listen to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia when he was interviewed on the sister station where he said mobile money was not going to be taxed. Let's listen to him.
Are we taxing mobile money? Because we have mobile money at Tuska.
Yeah.
No government revenue bill.
No, the point is that you are not taxing mobile money, and it is, for me, my view and that we should not tax mobile money, because mobile money transactions, a lot of the people who are using these transactions are very poor people. Someone will get sent 5 CDs on mobile money. Why would you want to tax that? But we want to increase economic activity and the use of that mobile money. So, if you pay for a government service and you pay by mobile money, like you go to a tourist site, you go to Cape Coast or wherever, and go to a castle, you pay directly by mobile money, the money will go straight into the account of government,
yes.
Right? The alternative is to give someone the cash. You don't know how much of it will end up into the account of government.
Yeah.
Even sometimes on our toll roads, you go to Tema motorway, you pay some tolls, you are not sure how much of it actually ends. But if you do digitize those payments, Noah, suddenly you will see revenue going up. And the research, the empirical evidence generally shows that when you digitize, economic activity goes up.
So that was the vice president once again when he appeared on a sister station. Of course, he was asked about mobile money, whether or not they're going to be taxing mobile money. He said emphatically that they're not going to be doing so. But today, mobile money has been taxed. I mean, it's part of an e-levy. Unfortunately, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, vice president of the Republic of Ghana, never mentioned that. He has never made a comment on the implementation and approval of e-levy in his address today. Don't you think that the vice president should be explaining to Ghanaians why he didn't make any comment on that? But let me take you back a bit on some of the few things the vice president has said. And of course, the vice president, was reported to have said that after the first 2 years, and my producers should display that for me, after the first 2 years, no village or community will have water or toilet problem. I'm talking about things the vice president, has said in the past. We are bringing you these things, and then we compare it to the things they are telling Ghanaians today. Then you draw your conclusion. I mean, you would have to form your own conclusion based on some of these things. So the very first one on the list is about this. After the first 2 years, no village or community will have a water or toilet problem. Is the situation not the same today? Are all villages, are all communities having water and toilet? Did the vice president touch on this one today? Let's put that one aside. Okay, when we came in, it was running, and he was talking about the CD. Essentially, we have arrested it. The CD. I'm talking about the CD. And the IGP has been given the keys. He has locked it up. We want to make sure we pursue sound economic growth. What is the exchange rate today? It has broken the 8. Unfortunately, the last time I heard we'll break the 8, they were talking about the fact that by 2024, they would have to win the elections. Unfortunately, the CD has broken the 8. The oil prices have actually broken the 8, even ahead of 2024. And so those were the words of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. This one in particular, he attributed it to Ukraine and Russia. He attributed it to COVID-19. And I've been asking, if we didn't have COVID-19, Ukraine and Russia, what would have been the excuse? But, well, let me continue. He also said that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. So can we say same about this government today? The exchange rate is on the rise. It's flying. It's skyrocketing. Is it the case that the fundamentals of this economy, are very weak? Of course, I mean, one would have deduced from this particular statement that maybe the fundamentals, the shock absorbers are actually weak. You would need a replacement. Can we say same about, the economy today? But the vice president says we have a robust economy in spite of, high inflation rates, in spite of oil prices very high, in spite of all these things. It says we have a robust economy, and that's the vice president. Also, he said this after they assumed office, and the exchange rate was, of course, flying and misbehaving. He says if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. But if the exchange rate moves, you cannot jump to the conclusion that the fundamentals of the economy are weak. These are the words of Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. So it looks as if in this place we are shifting the goalpost when it didn't go well for us anyway. But then, this is the final one. You don't have to borrow money from anywhere. Just toll the various sections of the road and we'll raise the money to do the roads in Ghana. Today, Vice President has told the good people of Ghana that they have a lot to show in terms of the monies they've borrowed. First and foremost, they told Ghanaians that they were changing the economy from, taxation to production. One would have thought that an MPP government would never borrow. They said borrowing to run the country was a lazy man's approach, and that somebody even said his 18-year-old son would have been able to borrow to run this country. So if you borrow to run the country, you've not done anything. Today, they've borrowed in excess of over 250 billion. 250 billion. The debt to GDP ratio is of course, is standing or stands at 80.1%. Well, this is the word, or these are the words of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. You don't have to borrow money from anywhere. Just tow the various sections of a road and we'll raise the money to do the roads in Ghana. Today they have scrapped road tolls. So what is happening? I've been joined in the studio by Comrade Murtala Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central and also former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. Comrade, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. The Vice President has spoken. Interesting times ahead. Anyway, also in the studio is Mr. Solomon Owusu, who is a member of the New Patriotic Party communications team. It's also interesting times, isn't it?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
You have been reported to have said that it would be better for the Vice President not to make comments on certain issues, and that anytime he dares to do so, he embarrasses himself. True or false?
Good evening to your viewers. I think we are here to speak to the lecture.
I'm just about to ask, has he embarrassed himself today?
Not really. If you went into the lecture, you will see that he only re-echoed what has been said before.
Okay, so briefly, can you, the two of you should allow me to read some few fact checks out here for you. Okay. Very first one. Dr. Bawumia, this is what he said. Fiscal deficit between 2013 and 2016 averaged about 7% of GDP. Between 2017 and 2019, it declined to an average of 4.5%. That was misleading. Since 2017, government omits energy and financial service cleanup costs in computing fiscal deficit figures. Now, there's another one. The Vice President said provided free water for households for a year during COVID-19. That's what he said. That was also misleading. And this is what happened. What the situation was at the time was the government absorbed the water bills for all Ghanaians, but later imposed a 1% COVID-19 health levy to recover the money they spent. We are still paying it. Don't forget about that. Why would the Vice President say this? I'm just fact-checking. Yesterday, one of your communicators sat here and referred to me as an armchair journalist. I don't want to do that anymore. I would have to delve deeper into some of these few things. Anyway, also, there's another one that is misleading here. He says, let me do this one quick, then we come to our discussion. He says, based on World Bank data, the average unemployment rate in Ghana between 2014 to 2016, which stood at 6.29%, declined to an average of 4.37% between 2017 to 2020. That was also misleading. But let me start with you, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, on the Vice President's address to the nation today. There are some few ones I would have been able to also, talk about, like that of the loans he has spoken about, that, well, they have also borrowed to construct the university at Somanya. I would later read out, a story that was written by a sister station that was, during the previous government era when they approved a loan in Parliament for the construction of the university. At the time, now the majority, then minority in Parliament, even opposed to, the approval of the loan and the construction of the university at Somanya, where people even questioned whether they have some sort of hatred for the people of Somanya and all of that. But, Comrade, I'll start with you on the address by the Vice President today.
Yes, let me say good evening to you and good evening to my brother and your cherished viewers, right, and most importantly, the good people of Tamale. And permit me also to say Ramadan Mubarak to all Muslims across the globe who are engaged in this, spiritual month of working tirelessly and having sleepless night to get closer to our Creator Allah.
Right.
And it is important also to state that fasting is not, a monopoly of Muslims. All the religions of the books have engaged in fasting, and they still engage in fasting.
Right.
And if you take Quran chapter 2 verse 83, Allah says that Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala allazina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. And which says that, oh, you who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may attain God consciousness. The expectation is that you deny yourself food, water from dawn to dusk. No, not just because Allah wants you to go hungry,
right,
but so that you can have an appreciation of what the poor go through. The poor are in perpetual fasting every day. And it is expected that as we experience it, you would show sympathy and empathy to those who do not have.
Right.
Allah didn't say to Muslims, but to those who do not have. Even those who are non-Muslims, you show sympathy and empathy to them. You deny yourself of the laxities and lust of the world, even with your married spouse. But when you are fasting, but it is permissible after you break your fast, you can do what is sunnah.
Right.
So I just want to say that we all work, hard, ensuring that we restrain and control ourselves. And after the Ramadan, we continue to espouse those values, so that, it ensures peace, tranquility. It's a month that we must strive to forgive each other, because we'll be asking for Allah's forgiveness. Justice, permit me also to extend my sincere and profound condolences to the family of the second lady of this country between 2000 to 2008, the wife of the former president Alhaji Aliyu Mama, and most importantly to his son, Alhaji Farouk, who is the MP for Yendi, who is a friend and a brother. We are all in parliament together. I just saw it here, and I think that it is our prayer that Allah forgive the mom, and may she be received in the merciful hands of Allah. And my understanding is that the burial will take place tomorrow. Allah's will, depending on how circumstances go, inshallah, we may participate in it. I can understand how the family will feel, and to the entirety of the family in Tamale and in Yendi, we are with them in this time of grief, So that is what I just have to say. Justice, what we witnessed today, it is the most clownish display of half-baked truth, and with all sincerity, sometimes absolute falsehood, if I want to put it mildly. But anybody under the sun, more so a vice president of the Republic of his state. In the first place, what occasioned that? The reason why the vice president desperately engaged in what he engaged in is because people demanded that something be done. You see, the vice president sometimes behaves like a spoiled child. A spoiled child blames everybody for his misfortunes apart from himself. And that is precisely what the vice president said. He vaunted how he was a whiskey. In fact, the wife of the vice president described the husband as economic whiskey. The wife, the Kumkum Bagya, who traveled to India, didn't see the need to visit or go for anything that would be beneficial to this country. She chose to visit Kumkum Bagya, those actresses and actors who engage in Kumkum Bagya. This woman described the husband as economic whiskey. And then people are going through challenges. I am not sitting here tonight to talk about economic jargons. Of course, I will question some of the economic terms and figures he used that are palpably false. I am here to talk about the economics that is understood by the carpenter, the economics that is understood by the teacher, the economics that is understood by the trader, the Makola woman, the cocoa farmer, the farmer in my village, the porridge seller in my hometown. That is what I am here to talk about. Because for me, that is germane to the people of this country. The people of this country are sick and tired of those figures. But I wouldn't just limit it to talking about the economic of the ordinary man. I would have to question the figures that the vice president. Justice, I don't have economics background. The only place I did economics was the SSS, where I did economics. I'm a trained teacher. I did psychology. I did development planning. I did development studies, I did international relations, and I'm doing political science. All these courses I have done are not directly economics related.
Right.
But at least I understand basic economics. And when someone is presenting figures that are an attack on the nuances of basic economics, I think that I'll be in a better position to expose those figures. How can you determine? Economic indicates the depreciation of the city, and he calculates the average. Every government, whether in Africa or in Europe or in America, particularly in Africa, you may have the currency of your country depreciating and appreciating. So you don't take an average of it. I can have a depreciation that is even 90%, but I can also have an appreciation that is 100%. So it would be unfair for you to take an average of the depreciation and say that you are doing better. But let's just ask the ordinary man, how much is a bag of sugar? Last year, how much did we buy a bag of sugar? In 2016, a bag of sugar was sold, that is the 50-kilo bag of sugar, between 120 to 140 cedis. Today, I bought sugar for my constituents, 410, 420 Ghana cedis. That is what the people of this country want to hear.
Yeah.
How much is a bag of cement under the NDC? And I will give you some of these figures. When the NDC was in office, a bag of cement in 2016 was 28 cedis. How much is a bag of cement now? 60 cedis, and sometimes more than 60 cedis, depending on where you purchase it. We decide which farmers need so much was 6 cedis in 2016. We decide is 60 cedis. Today, petrol per gallon. A petrol per gallon and the NDC in 2016 was 14 cedis. It is 52 cedis today. But you see, when he attempts to blame the surge in petrol prices on Ukraine-Russia war, that is the lamest of excuses that has ever been given.
But that is factual.
No, absolutely not factual. Absolutely not factual. In fact, the war in Ukraine started on the 24th of February this year. As a matter of fact, before 24th of February, a liter of petrol was sold at 7.4 cedis, and that is almost 30 cedis per gallon. So it certainly cannot be the case. In any case, assuming it's even the case, Ghana is a net producer of crude. And don't take my word, if you take the 2019 financial statement presented by the Minister for Finance for and on behalf of Dr. Baumia and President Nana Addo, the minister said, and I quote, that in 2017-2018 fiscal year, Ghana exported crude of 2.8 billion, and we imported refined oil at 1.7 billion. So what it means is that there was a net of 1.1, and in fact, the Minister for Finance himself in the 2019 budget said that there was a net of 1.1 billion. So anytime crude prices surge globally, Ghana stands to benefit because we are a net producer of crude. As a matter of fact, when crude was sold at a little over $60 per barrel, we were making over $300 million on that. And anytime crude prices goes beyond $100, we are making $40 on each barrel. Right. So it is not true that the reason why we have surge in crude prices is because of what? The Russia war. And I'll give you another statistics. The reason why we have crude fuel prices surging is because of the tax buildup. I asked my senior brother Adam Mohammed Amin Anta that I still go to read some of the press conferences and statements he issues when he was the head of ASEP. And interestingly, his former boss, the former Minister for Energy, Amewu, who was working with him at ASEP, a lot of the things Anta said were true and are still true. And one of them, I'll just show you one of the things and as to why we are paying this at that much. The reason why we are paying much has nothing to do with the conflict in Ukraine. As a matter of fact, the conflict in Ukraine, bad as it is even giving us more money because we are a net producer of crude. Right. How come that Togo doesn't produce oil, yet fuel prices in Togo are cheaper than it is in Ghana? Fuel prices in Ivory Coast are cheaper than it is in Ghana. Fuel prices in even Niger are cheaper than it is in Ghana. It's because of the tax buildup. And I'll give you one. You have what they call energy debt recovery, which is 49 pesos. Road fund levy, 48 pesos. Energy fund levy, 1 pesos. Stabilization and recovery levy, 14 pesos. Sanitation and pollution levy 10 pesos. Energy sector recovery levy 20 pesos. Special petroleum tax 46 pesos. Primary distribution margin 11 pesos. Boss margin 9 pesos. Fuel marking margin 5 pesos. And listen to this. Marketers margin 46 pesos. And dealers or retailers operation margin 30 pesos. And that constitutes 40% of the tax, the price build-up. So the reason why we are paying more is not because of Ukraine-Russia war. It's because of the taxes that are imposed on the ordinary Ghanaian in the consumption of this. In any case, how come that Nigeria, as a result of the windfall that they get because of surge in global prices of crude, have subsidized prices of fuel for Nigerians? Because when you are in extreme realities, you need extreme resolutions. And that is why these countries are able to do what they have done. Right. But let me just continue with this one. Okay. If you take another one that we need to look at, has to do with diesel. Diesel was 14.5 in 2016. It is now 55 Ghana cedis. Iron sheet, which everybody needs to build a house, was 180 Ghana cedis. It is now 680 Ghana cedis. Floor tiles, which indeed, that is the 60 BY60. It was 55 Ghana cedis. It is now 120 Ghana cedis. Bag of rice, that is the 50 kilos, was 150 Ghana cedis in 2016. It is now 370 Ghana cedis. Bag of sugar, I've just stated bag of sugar. Flour, fertilizer, you cannot talk about them. That is what is in the interest of the people of this country. Now, it is so ridiculous that the Vice President will tell us that a cedi to the dollar, which was 3.4 in 2014, by 2016 it rose to about 3.7. It's worse than 8.8. Remember, it moved to 8.8. It is now around 7.7, 7.6. Yet the Vice President is telling us that it is better. You don't need to complain. Another thing that the Vice President failed to tell the people of this country, that when he talked about COVID, and I've heard this statement that is made repeatedly by the Vice President and the assigns of the Vice President and the President, we have been told that, oh, Ghana, indeed, we subsidize. We get free water and free electricity. Yes. That is wholly not true. The free electricity was not given to everybody in Ghana. It was given to a particular consumers. But today, whether you are a beneficiary of that free electricity and water, we are all paying it today. Buy anything you see, COVID tax that is imbibed in it. That is it a fair form of taxing people? But that is what is happening. That is the reality. Another thing that he failed to tell the people of this country, that yes, we experienced COVID. Some countries gave free rents. In fact, Senegal is a classical example. But he also failed to tell the people of this country that they went to the IMF. And in fact, no country within West Africa went to the IMF to borrow $3 billion all in the name of COVID. Right. None of our neighbors went to the World Bank to borrow $450 million in the name of COVID. None of our neighbors went to the European Union to get a grant of 86 million euro. None of our neighbors dipped their hands into all manner of forms, including infrastructure development fund. As we see today, they have not been able to account to the people of this country how they expended these billions of dollars that they have borrowed. Those borrowed money taxes are going to be paid by us and generations yet unborn. Nanado is about 79 years, if I'm not mistaken. Right. He cares less. But I'm saying that it is important you put it in context. There has never been an economy that is badly mismanaged as we are experiencing today. So for him to come out to tell us jargons and figures, that is not what the people of this country are looking for. Today, justice. Right. President Mahama total borrowed money, mind you, from Nkrumah up to the time President Mahama left office was 120 billion. The 120 billion
122 billion.
Granted, it's even 120. In fact, it was 120 billion. But for the purposes of this discussion, let's even go with 122 billion. Yeah. The 122 billion, you have the Pokwasi interchange to show. Dr. Bamia again peddled another falsehood that they borrowed money to complete it. As a matter of fact, the loan agreement for that particular project was sought by the NDC. And in calculating the 120 billion or 22 billion the NDC borrowed was inclusive of the money to execute the Pokwasi interchange. Right. The borrowing of the Legon Hospital, the second phase, was inclusive to the monies that we are using to, the total monies that was borrowed by the NDC. We have regional hospitals to show. We have district hospitals to show. We have new airports to show. We have universities to show. We have all manner of projects to show. This government has borrowed 400 billion. As a matter of fact, you cannot tell me a debt to GDP and the NDC, which was 56%, is worse to the debt to GDP, which is 83% today. And if you look at...
Has it gotten to 83 now?
Oh, absolutely. No, it's 83. You see, the figure that was presented by the Bank of Ghana was completely misleading. They told us that it was around 81%. But there were a lot of borrowings that were not added. And all along, they have been cooking figures. You have just indicated that if you look at the banking sector cleanup, it was not added. They always put it under appendix. Check in the 2022 budget statement which was presented. Monies that they are going to borrow, by the close of the year, we would have borrowed, debt to GDP would have been 90%. 90%. As a matter of fact, under the World Bank own and the IMF own assessment, debt to GDP, once it exceeds 60%, it is at a catastrophic level. Today, we are experiencing it under 83. And I can tell you by the close of the year, if you calculate the other borrowings that they intend to go into, it will be 90 billion Ghana cedis. That is completely unacceptable. And this is an economy that was managed and is being managed by economic whiz kid, courtesy Samira Baumia, who described the husband as an economic whiz kid. So I'm saying that we are at a catastrophic level. What is shocking? What is shocking today? Baumia didn't talk about e-levy. He didn't tell us that the e-levy is unacceptable. He told everybody that taxing Momo was unacceptable and that majority of the people who are engaged in it are poor. He didn't talk about it. Look, it is very clear that if you want to see a government that is so insensitive, one thing you can use to determine a government that cares about the people is when they impose hardship on the people, they celebrate over it. I can't imagine a government that is celebrating an imposition of a tax burden on the people of this country. Now he touted himself. Another lie. And this one, I'm not going to mince words. I'm not going to say that he was being economical with the truth. He lied. And I even wondered whether he was fasting, to be very honest with you. Because it was a palpable lie. Dr. Baumia said the paperlessness. And the reason why I feel particularly hurt about it is that I championed the work of it as a deputy minister for trade. And I'll give you evidences. When we thought that there was the need for us to reduce the number of days and weeks and months sometimes people spend at the port to have their goods cleared, my boss then, Dr. Spugabra, constituted a team at the Ministry of Trade. And I was asked to lead the team to see how we can reduce the amount of time people spend in having their goods cleared. The former minister, deputy minister for trade, Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, he was the leader of the freight forwarders in Ghana. He represented them. Guta, the former Guta chair, he was there and I led the team. As a matter of fact, what paved way for the paperlessness was the passage of the law, International Trade Facilitation Bill. As a matter of fact, in all the workshops, I led them. We had some in Adan, we had some at several places with all the stakeholders. And Justice, I moved the motion on the floor of Parliament for the passage of that law. And in fact, by the time we passed that law, we got a Ghanaian private person who was a head of this, what's the name? West Blue. As a matter of fact, for West Blue to be taken, I led a fact-finding team to Nigeria, because West Blue had done some work in Nigeria. So I led a fact-finding team to Abuja, to Lagos, and I went there with all the various stakeholders, customs, GRA, and I led the team. We interacted with them, we went through their books to see the positive story that the Nigerian customs and government, chalked as a result of the work West Blue did. And this was a Ghanaian woman. As a result of that, we started implementing the paperlessness in Ghana. And in fact, by the time we left office, it was left with just 2 agencies to be put on the system. And we started working in more revenue. When Dr. Baumia came and the MPP came into office, within 3-4 months, Dr. Baumia came and said that they did paperlessness. And at that time, you remember, I challenged him to tell me one single thing he did and his government did on the issue of paperlessness. I feel particularly hurt that he was lying through his teeth. I'm not going to say that he was being economical with the truth. And my shocker was that supposedly this is a person who was engaged in fasting. And that is why I started by telling you the values that we are entreated by Allah and the Holy Prophet to espouse and hold jealously. When we are in the mood of fast, the time he was peddling those falsehoods, he was engaged in fasting. This man is unfit to lead this country. And for me, he demonstrated that. It is so hurting. And then when we'll look at COVID, how much they have borrowed. This Minister for Health.
To look at COVID, you were in government during the Eswell John Mahama administration. We know that he started a university at Somanya.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the University of, he has a name. Did you secure loans? Did
We got the full loan. You see,
that project? The Vice President said they have secured loan for the construction of the university, and so he has added it to the debt stock.
Yes, I think that we need to pray for the Vice President.
Perhaps we need to pray for him.
You see, perhaps he doesn't know. You see, there is a proverb in the Gbani. If someone farted at you and you want to respond, if you don't take time, you will do the true thing against that person. Because President Mahama asked the whereabouts of the economic biscuit, because the people of this country demanded to know where is Dr. Bawumia when he told us they had the men. In his desperation, he rushed to respond. And to be very honest, his response has landed him into more trouble.
Right.
His people and my brother, I know he's here, he will defend, but in the heart of his heart, he knows that defending this is a huge responsibility.
Right.
And it is not surprising that he was run away from his own statement when he said that it is good Dr. Bawumia remains silent, that anytime he opens the mouth, he lands himself into trouble. It was fair. It was a genuine concern because anytime he opens his mouth, they would have the tedious responsibility to re-explain what Dr. Bawumia meant.
Okay.
To conclude, my interest is not about those economic jargons. And don't be surprised, my friend will talk about the economic jargons.
Right.
But we are talking about...
I'll come back to you.
We are talking about the suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian.
Okay.
How much is a bag of maize today? What has Ukraine got to do with the depreciation of our currency? It is absolutely, has nothing to do with it. But let me conclude on this.
Right.
The Vice President failed to tell us that under President Mahama, we were spending $450 million to $500 million importing rice into this country. Today, under the economic biscuit, courtesy Samira Bawumia, we are spending $1.5 billion in the importation of rice into this country. So if he wants to find the reasons why the city is depreciating day by day, he should look at the kind of policy interventions and implementation.
Right.
But you see, when you appoint Dada Bass or Dada Beast to manage your economy, this is what you experience.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Murtala Mohammed. Let me go to Mr. Osu. But if you're watching us on Facebook, please share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share as many times as you can for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Osu, on the Vice President's address to the nation today. What do you make of it?
Well, let me greet my brother once again and also associate myself to the statement. My condolence to the former Second Lady's family, especially Farouk. May Allah grant her some items. Put her in a very safe place for us. My brother has spoken at length, and I don't know where to even start from.
Because it's difficult to defend what he said.
The truth of the matter is that the Vice President gave a lecture, and we must look at it from that context. Indeed, he was very truthful to the people of this country by acknowledging that we had difficulties in the economy. For me, that was very important. You see, many a times when we come on set or radio and we try to, as it were, defend the obvious, then it becomes very annoying. All of us accept, from the president to the ministers to the vice to everyone, accept that the country is going through some form of challenges.
But he doesn't accept that.
It is a fact. And you see, like my brother was saying, you can provide all the economic data or whatever, but the reality of the day is that each one in his problem. Someone's economy will be different from your economy. And so, to that extent, we can't do much about that. If we go into the figures that he churned out today, it is true. For instance, when we took over power, the country was growing at 3.64%. That was our GDP growth. It's a fact. And it is also true that between 2017 to 2019, we grew at an average of 7.1%. It is also a fact.
Yes.
It is true that when we came into power, we took over an economy that had 54 billion as its GDP. And that currently we are doing around 82 billion. And so if you look at it that way, that we have been able to move it from 54 to 82, added about 29 billion to it, it means the amount of money that we have borrowed is what has orchestrated this increase in our GDP. We must recognize that. My brother also made mention of we borrowing that much. And if you look at the percentage, it doesn't support his argument. Indeed, when they took over from the MPP, from the Kufuor administration, we left them a debt of 9 billion.
To an economy of what?
And they took the debt portfolio to 122. If you did the mathematics, that's 1,255% percentage change. A whooping one.
So what's the percentage now?
Now the percentage now is 78. If you took it from 120, the percentage change is 78%.
Before redenomination.
Before redenomination, my brother, you let me go on. You have spoken a lot. And so, and you know the beauty of all these borrowings.
Yes.
Fortunately, it's in Parliament. They approved all these loans.
I never approved them. I wasn't in Parliament.
But the Parliament of Ghana approved it. So you cannot absolve yourself from it.
No, you had.
Indeed, if the country has to take people on, and I believe that recently the Minister of National Security made a categorical statement that I actually support, that corruption and mismanagement of the economy is rather being allowed by Parliament, because Parliament is supposed to provide us that safety net. So if you go to Parliament, loans are brought, and the same Parliament approves it, and members of Parliament come back to come and accuse the government of borrowing more, then I don't get the issues. Again, he was talking about...
Were there not members of Parliament from the MPP side during President Mahama's time when those loans were approved? Yet, I mean, we had a lot of...
But I'm going to come there. You see, if you have observed me, when I come here, I am looking forward to the forward march of this country.
Right.
Not too much into parties. As for the partisan politics, it presents itself at the right time. See, how did we get to this point? If we acknowledge that there are challenges in the system, the first question you ask yourself is, how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
My brother is sitting down here. I wonder why his government entered into a pay or take agreement that has cost this country so much, but we have nobody to own up.
I'll explain that.
That this country between 2017 to 2019 spent close to 12 billion paying for excess power that we did not need.
Say so.
Oh, it is there. The evidence is there.
Say so.
And so, if you have people who are managing, whom we have entrusted our destiny into their hands, decide to enter into agreements that would rather send this country into such situations, then whom do you blame? And I am very sure he knows that in 2007, because he has been a deputy minister of trade before, there was a scoping report in this country to look at areas that were suitable for siting of sugar factories. And that when they did the scoping report, Commander was the number 8. In fact, the first place was Savulegu. How on earth did we go back to Commander to go and invest the nation's money into Commander and silently Savulegu, when in fact their own State of the Nations address in 2014 had captured that we needed a sugar factory in Savulegu? Why did we not take a decision that will help this country? Because we had entrusted our destinies into your hands. He was talking about taxes forming a greater percentage of why we are paying more for fuel. The question you ask yourself is that, who introduced deregulation? In fact, I was for deregulation, and I am still for deregulation. But all the taxes passes through Parliament. It is the parliamentarians that passes these taxes into law. So if you go and pass these taxes into law and come back and accuse the government, then me that has never been to Parliament, how can I explain? You understand? He made a fantastic submission on the fact that subsidies, Nigeria, because of they are net exporters of fuel.
Right.
The windfall is what they use to cushion the citizens. But what he failed to add is that as we speak, Nigeria is facing shortage of fuel.
No, not anymore.
You understand?
Not anymore.
Because but the phases, you know about that.
But we also face it sometimes.
No, but what I'm saying, in the crisis, we are not facing. They did, but government was supposed to subsidize. And it was the same situation we found ourselves before we introduced the deregulation. One government said it was subsidizing fuel, but we couldn't get the tax revenue or the much needed revenue to subsidize it.
Right.
And so we needed to move away from that. Going forward, I strongly believe that, like he rightly said, the economy, whether it's good or bad, it depends on the individual. We can say all that we want to say. If the man on the street is hungry, it doesn't mean anything. What are we doing to lift those that are within the poverty threshold? What are we doing to reduce unemployment? It will interest you to note. That is the more reason why programs like the One District, One Factory, we are fighting hard to expand it so that we can absorb the number of teeming youth that are unemployed. It is very important. We have been fighting to reduce interest rate like the Vice President captured. Under the regime, we were doing 36%. Now it is 24%. I still say it's madness that we continue to take loans to the tune of 24%. How are you going to survive? If we are able to further reduce it, it will free the private sector, for the private sector to be able to expand their businesses, to absorb the teeming youth that are passing out of our universities and other tertiary institutions day in and day out.
But you see, when we are looking at, or we are talking about borrowing, why would you want to look at it from the percentage, aspect, but not talking about the nominal figures? Because if you are talking about the fact that they took it from 9 billion to 122 billion, you took it from 122 billion to how much now? Over 350 something.
So that is why we do what we call percentage change. You prefer to do the nominal. you prefer to do the nominal things. I prefer to do the
percentage is
because if you look at it from the nominal aspect, you realize that then you have also borrowed more than from Nkrumah's time.
That is even not the point I'm trying to make, because borrowing, if we had enough money, and don't forget, borrowing is not a bad thing.
It is bad when you borrow to chop.
Exactly, it depends on what you use the money for.
What have you borrowed? What have you used it for?
But all these borrowings come to the parliament. That's why I'm telling you that when you scrutinize those documents, did you find anything untoward in these laws?
So assuming I wasn't an MP, how about those who are not MPs who are raising the same concerns? Do you tell them that? You see,
so I don't want you to make that point.
I'll come to
because you, as for you, you are in parliament to stop anything that is bad and not in the interest of this country. So if you go and pass it,
do you agree with me that a lot of the loans, the NPP, NDC in parliament, in the 7th parliament voted against them? You had the numbers and you went through.
No, that's not the point.
So why would you blame the NDC?
There is only one parliament of Ghana. We don't have NPP parliament.
We do.
We have the parliament of Ghana. When laws are made, it doesn't stand in the name of NDC.
E-levy. We walked out.
It doesn't mean you are not part.
Hold on. We have.
But you have finished your time. Why do you want to take my time?
Comrade, I'll give you the time. I'll give you the time to respond.
So now you want to.
You can go ahead.
So we have to. The whole issue with the economy has to do with the structure.
Right.
You see, until we move away from import dependence and to insist that Ghanaians take ownership of our mining sector, telecommunications sector, banking sector, we would always be coming here year in and year out to complain about exchange rate. If you have these multinationals taking the monies out of the system, no amount of economic jargon will save your currency. You understand? Every year, even the churches who are around here, they have turned themselves into changing monies every Mondays. These mining companies, when they make their money, where do they send it to? Back to their countries. This banking sector, big banks, they take all their monies out of this country. I have had an occasion to even question the Ghana Commercial Bank. Right. That if you look at their loan portfolio, how much are they giving to the SMEs in this country? It is the foreign banks that gives to at a very high interest rate and later repatriate all their profits from this country and put pressure on your currency. So if you deal with such fundamentals, that is where you and I can say we have a country. Other than that, always coming here to be saying the same thing. Yes, he said it. Yes, he said we shouldn't tax mobile money. But the reality is, I like what he said.
Why didn't he talk about it?
But he said that was his view.
So why didn't he talk about it today?
That's a letter.
But he should have had his view on that situation today.
No, it's a letter. He couldn't touch on every aspect of the economy.
All right.
There were salient ones.
So kindly give me some few minutes to wrap up properly. I'm begging you. So give me some 10-15 minutes.
So Justice, the whole thing is that the Vice President re-echoed what was said, that what is contained in the budget of 2022, what is contained in the State of the Nation's address, what the austerity measures contain. He only came to reinforce it that Ghanaians must have hope that indeed things will turn around, and that going forward, as it has started showing, now the city is beginning to stabilize. Because now it's now 7, but it's now 7.5. Yeah, it's 7 because of the kind of interventions the Bank of Ghana made.
Which intervention?
You're
injecting to borrow $2 billion.
No, it's not that. We are now going to enforce the retention policy. Today, the Bank of Ghana issued another statement that nobody must price his or her goods in foreign currency. These are all some of the measures that we are trying to bring into the system to stabilize. Like he knows it.
That from Bank
you understand? MPs must not be going around showing dollars. Where do you get your dollars?
Which MP is showing dollars?
A lot of them, when you meet them...
Mention names.
I don't want to mention names here. I see a lot of them with dollars. But I don't know where they get their dollars from.
Mention the names.
If MPs will begin to take economy class instead of business class, it will reduce the kind of... but if all 275 MPs are traveling and they go by economy, different destinations, do you know the amount of money we will pay? So... We are.
The president himself is flying in a luxurious private
$18,000.
So why would you want MPs
the last
to go
time
by
the president went to Dubai, he went by a commercial.
And this one, which one did he go with?
You have been coming out with all sort of things without showing us any invoice, any receipt that this is the amount. You just go onto the internet and say, when you fly from this point A to point B, it costs 18,000 per hour. And that is what, as a country, we must be running by.
Justice.
It is unfair to the people.
I'll come to you. Allow me also to...
So, the vice president has spoken his mind. And it is for the opposition parties to also, if they think or if they feel they have counter data, parallel data, contrary data, to disprove what he has said, let them bring it.
But when did the MPP government know that it is good to borrow? Because when you were in the opposition, you made a lot of noise against borrowing. You painted a picture as though when you are giving a nod, you don't borrow. So... why then today Dr. Mohamedou Bawumia will tell the good people of Ghana that, we have borrowed and we have a lot of things to show that we have borrowed. He talked about the Pokwasi interchange, some other roads and all of that.
Which are not even...
Is borrowing not a lazy man's approach anymore?
Before coming to the studio, I went through our 2020 manifesto. From page 1 to the last page. I did not find anywhere, any chapter, that we explicitly said that the borrowing was no good.
So, you see, this is a word from the vice president, and then the one on borrowing,
captured in the manifesto of the MPP.
The one on borrowing kindly displayed, or he said, this is the person.
But is it captured in the manifesto of the MPP?
But this is the man who was talking to the good people of Ghana today. This is what he said some time ago. You don't have to borrow money from anywhere. Just told the various sections of the road, and we will raise the money to do the roads in Ghana. Why is it telling Ghanaians today that we have borrowed to construct roads and
That is why I'm saying that this one is not captured in our manifesto. And indeed, whatever we intended to do, we captured it in our manifesto. He believes it.
In their manifesto, they said they were going
to... viewers, you are watching, and those are the words of the Vice President, Dr. Mohamedou Bawumia. Those are not my words, Justice Appiah. Those are the words of Dr. Mohamedou Bawumia. So I mean,
in their manifesto, they are going to give every village a dam. And their manifesto, they are going to give...
Not every village.
They said every village in the north.
One dam.
In the north. In the north.
Not even a single village has a dam.
Yours is coming.
And they told us that they were going to give every constituency $1 million.
Let him land so I can give you some few minutes to...
And
so can you land?
So the vice president expressed the wish and aspiration of the people that indeed we didn't need to borrow. If we were doing our things very well, if we were able to move our tax to GDP from the current rate of 12% to say 20%, we will not need to borrow. If we were going to seal all the loopholes, like he was saying, he fought very hard for the paperless. What was the intention? Was to break what we call seal the revenue slippages, so that we could mobilize more. It is a way of reducing our borrowing. E-levy is also a way of reducing our borrowing. You in one breath, you are complaining about borrowing too much. Now he was doing a comparative analysis of prices of goods during their time and now. That is an easy way of it's a lazy approach. Because you see, when you took over, what was the price of cement? It was far cheaper than how much you sold it to us.
How much was it?
We were selling cement in this country 8 cities in 2008.
How much?
50 kg, 8 cedis.
So from 2 to 2000 and what?
And 2016, you are buying it at
I'll give you the
29 cedis. Okay. So would I say that because we have imported inflation, we have a lot of things that fight against our currency, and that one you can't do much about it.
Thank you, Mr. Osu.
And no price is going to go down. Is he going to tell me that if tomorrow NDC comes to power, they will reduce the price of items? I want him to make a statement on it.
Okay, comrade, you have 4 minutes.
Yes, he made mention of something that I just want to correct. When you talk about the sugar testing, let me be very clear so that you don't repeat it elsewhere. Those analyses were done with regard to a particular brand of sugar. Mind you, the Commander area has been in sugar production for decades, if not centuries.
Right.
As a matter of fact, our project included Commander and Savulgo. If you do not know, we had even procured the land in Savulgo. The loan facility to execute the Commander Sugar Factory, the next one was the Savulgo. So it is not accurate to say that we left Savulgo and we did this. Get this very clear.
No, but that was not what I said. No. I said there was a report. Was there a report?
Hold on. That report was talking about a particular specification of sugar. But
there was a report.
Yes, we did. And I'm saying that the Savulgo, if in fact the current Yana, then he was the chief of Savulgo. He gave even the land, the processes, the soil testing, and everything was done. The view was that immediately you execute this project, you are going to continue. And the reason why Commander has started was because the people have been engaged in sugarcane production for centuries. So it was, and mind you, that particular facility, there was a sugar factory there which had collapsed. And that sugar factory which had collapsed was just to revamp it. So the Savulgo one, the land and everything was procured.
You never executed
but we lost elections and
you had a lot of years.
Oh, I'm coming.
Your State of Nation in 2014, you said you were going to do something like that.
We commissioned the Commander Sugar Factory in 2016.
But you had...
If you do not know.
No, you commissioned. You didn't commission it. No, you just went there for political expediency.
Oh, no,
to just quickly rush machines there.
Can you listen to me now? When you're talking.
It's also allowing him so that
we commissioned that, and I can tell you also, the other loan facility, which was $24 million for the purposes of the production of sugarcane, we approved the loan. And I remember my colleague, Honorable Rickett Hagan, he moved the motion for the approval of the $24 million loan.
Right.
What was left with accessing the money, this government came and abandoned it. Let me be very clear. Dr. Bawumia said today that they have created more factories than any other government. And I'm wondering which are the factories.
He said since independence.
106 are working.
Which factories?
Oh, you want me to give you the list?
What they do is that, you see, what they do is that they did that to your boss, the Minister for Trade. They left him, it was his idea. They created a department at the Flagstaff House because they didn't want him to do anything. That was what happened. We are here defending the indefensible. It is also significant to state that forget about what MPP did. All the loans you are claiming.
Right.
Majority of those loans, the NDC voted against them. Of course, I agree. Whether the NDC voted against them, once they were passed by Parliament, they became a thing that Parliament passed. But on record, the NDC minority at that time voted against most of those reckless and irresponsible borrowing that this government was engaged in. The question then is, Bawumia also peddled another falsehood. And frankly speaking, at that time I was listening to it on radio. I didn't know whether I should cry or I should laugh. Because I thought that Bawumia, as the leader of the economic management team, participated in drafting the financial statement, which was presented by the minister. In the budget for 2022, the Minister for Finance stated that youth unemployment is 12.6%. It's in the budget. Dr. Bawumia came and said that it's around 9%. That's an outright lie. In fact, the census that was conducted by your government, supervised by the Statistical Service Board appointed by your government, put unemployment at 19%. Yet my senior brother, Dr. Bawumia, who looked straight into our miserable faces and told us that, oh, unemployment is 9%. He was outrightly lying. And that is why I wonder whether he was fasting at that time. These are not my words. The financial statement, the budget statement. Another point, Justice. In the 2020 budget which was presented, COVID money, the Minister of Health spent 32 million Ghana cedis of COVID money drinking tea. 32 million. They spent it drinking tea.
How
they said they spent 32 million Ghana cedis holding workshops. What
workshops? Is it tea that we drink there?
But what is it? To what impact?
So during your time, the workshop you are drinking tea.
To what impact? And two, the Minister for Finance, this Minister for Finance, the Minister for Finance is asking us that we should give him 54 million Ghana cedis of COVID money to set up another bank. I am telling you, in a serious democracy with a serious president, this Minister for Finance should not be there. He is only there because he uses Oforiatta. That is the reason. And I tell my brother that the way he suffered for MPP, if you want to get an appointment under this government, go and swear an affidavit and add Oforiatta to your name.
It's propaganda.
And then when you do that, so frankly speaking, my last word. I want to apologize sincerely for and on behalf of my senior brother, Dr. Baum.
Why are you apologizing?
Because he was fasting.
Oh,
that tonight, let us all join in our tahajjud prayer. You know, tahajjud prayer is what we engage in the midnight.
Yeah.
And pray for forgiveness for him. He didn't know. Because to fast and engage in such outright lies is just unbecoming of a vice president.
Thank you so much, Comrade Murtala Mohammed. Comrade Murtala Mohammed is a friend and a brother. He's a member of parliament for Tamale Central, former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. Mr. Also, kindly take us home.
Well, I just want viewers to disregard
the prayer.
Not the prayer.
The forgiveness, apology.
Which apology?
I'm apologizing for and on behalf of my
because he has not provided any contrary evidence to suggest that the vice president lied.
Oh, he did. I just told you the unemployment.
That really.
No, just is the unemployment. You saw your budget. How did you? What was the rate of?
What are you saying?
No, I gave you facts that tell you that the vice president in some of his statements misled the group.
Not misled. I'm saying unemployment. So unemployment. What is it in the budget?
The vice president concluded today's latest by saying that Ghanaians must be hopeful that this country will be turned around by this government.
Right.
Indeed, whatever we are doing, we cannot absolve ourselves from what is happening in the international scenes. And my brother was saying Ukraine.
Ukraine
cannot be a factor.
Tomorrow you tell us Somalia. Tomorrow you tell us them. Look, when we have a resolution of this conflict, they will tell us it's Ethiopia conflict.
Can you allow him, you know?
So Ukraine has created a problem. COVID has created a problem. We are coming out of it.
Right.
It is for all of us to hold our hands together and move to the promised land. Definitely we will get it. And the people of this country must have confidence in the new patriotic party. So we will deliver.
Thank you so much, Mr. Also, for coming. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you so much, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, for coming. These two people are, you know, very good brothers of mine. They are very, very good brothers and friends of mine. Don't mind them. We'll continue to witness the economy. I mean, to see what government is able to do to make sure that we bring back the economy on its feet. This is our time or last on the program. Make a time with us. Same time next week. My name is Justice Appiah J.A. And the show has been Hot News. Goodbye.